My name is Claire, and I live in a house in Denver, America. A week after my surgery, I could not lift a pan without pain. The doctor said, no stairs, no stress. I kept the orders on the fridge beside a grocery list and a photo of me and my husband, Mark. The smile felt like a costume now. On Monday, the first snow came and covered the porch steps. I made hot tea. Mark paced the living room. Mom says we still host Christmas, he said. Family is family. I stared at the tree lights. I can't do it, I said. I need rest. He shrugged like it was weather I could ignore. By noon, Barbara, my mother-in-law, was calling every 10 minutes from Chicago. Her voice was sharp. Stop being dramatic and cook, she barked. We're driving in. We bought a turkey, and we're not wasting it. I pressed the phone to my chest and breathed. My stitches pulled. The house felt smaller. That day, I called my friend Emma, who lives near Sloan's Lake. Come here, she said. I'll bring soup. I wanted to go, but this was my house. I told myself that Mark would set a boundary. He did not. By evening, 3 cars rolled up and spilled cousins into my yard. Boxes of lights, bags of bread, a cooler, everything but permission. Barbara pushed into the foyer in a red coat. You look fine, she said. She set a frozen turkey on my counter with a thud. Mark stood behind her and would not meet my eyes. I said, please, I just had surgery. She glanced at the bandage under my sweater. Everyone has something, she said. Work through it. I tried to climb the stairs to rest, but Barbara blocked me. You can lie down later, she said, as if my body ran on her clock. Cousins unpacked candles and shouted about stockings. One cousin, Daniel, asked where to hang a wreath. Nowhere, I said. My voice shook. This is my house, and I said no. Barbara's mouth went thin. If you won't host, you can leave, she said. We'll make this house festive without you. Mark muttered, maybe it's best if you go to Emma's. My heart dropped like a glass. I looked at the tree in the window and thought of the day we bought it on Colfax Avenue, how Mark wrapped the base with care. I did not know memory could turn like milk. I pulled on boots and my long coat. I grabbed my phone, my pill bottle, and a charger. Snow blew across the walk. I ordered a ride for $75 and watched the little car crawl toward me on the map. Inside, someone laughed like a bell. I felt like the ghost of my own life. Emma opened her door before I could knock. The heat, the smell of thyme, the soft lamp, all of it felt like a hand on my back. She tucked a blanket around me and poured tea. They kicked you out of your own house? She asked. Yes, I said. They took over everything. I sent her $300 to cover food, and the gas she used to pick up my medicine. I wrote the figure in my notebook next to the hospital bill, already over $12,000. I lay on her couch and stared at the ceiling. The tree lights blinked slow. I made a promise in the quiet. I would not be pushed out of my life. I would find a way back in. Emma drove me back to my house in Denver 2 days later, the sky a clean winter blue that made the roofs look like folded paper. I wore a soft scarf and carried a small list of what I needed. My laptop, my ID, my insurance cards, and the ring my grandmother left me. The porch still had the wreath the cousin, Daniel, had tried to hang, now leaning sideways like a tired eye. Through the front window, I saw my own kitchen lit up, a stranger's party in my home. Barbara stood at the island in her red coat, giving orders like a conductor. She didn't turn when I came in. We're planning the seating, she said, tapping a notebook. You can sit near the end if you behave. The words slid off me. I'm here for my things, I said. That's all. Mark stood by the sink, looking at the floor as if someone had hidden instructions in the tile. It's complicated, he said. We already told everyone. It's simple, I said. I need my documents and my ring. Then I'm leaving. Emma hovered near the door, not quite stepping inside, a steady presence that made the air feel safer. Barbara finally looked up, her mouth arranged in a prim little bow. Your things, she said. This is a family home. We're taking care of it. She glanced at my scarf, at the way I held myself. You look fine, Claire. You'll survive a little Christmas prep. The doorbell rang. I felt the sound like a tap to the sternum. Mark moved to answer, but I reached it first. A woman stood on the mat with a stroller and wind-bitten cheeks, a polished look that belonged in a magazine spread for winter coats. She had a red scarf tied just so. The shade matched to her lipstick. "Hi," she said softly. "I'm Julia." Mark told me to come. She looked past me into the hallway. "We've been together for some time. We have a daughter, Lily, and I'm pregnant again." The house went soundless in the way a theater does when the lights fall. For a long second, I heard only the heater, the faint tick of settling wood, and my own breath turning cold at the back of my throat. "No," I said, as if that could undo it. Julia lifted her phone with a careful, almost polite motion. "He sends $500 a month," she said. "Here." The screen showed his name beside lines of transfers. Dates. Notes with tiny hearts. She pointed to one from the week he said he was in Boston for work. Barbara's chin lifted. "Maybe if you were a better wife," she said, and with that she turned to the refrigerator like she'd just smoothed a wrinkle. Mark's face shut down in a gray way I recognized from arguments. It was his bunker look. He didn't deny it. He didn't speak at all. The baby in the stroller fussed, and Julia rocked it gently with one foot, as if we were all discussing the weather. I felt the hurt surge up, hot and useless. Then something cooled inside me, like water finding its level. I thought of the hospital bill. Over $12,000 and the $300 I had sent Emma, and the ridiculous $75 ride to escape my own front door. Money is a map. It shows you where people really go. I pulled out my phone and, without raising my voice, began to record what I could. The entryway with the stroller, the kitchen with Barbara planted at the island, the turkey defrosting in my sink like a smug ship, Mark's silent profile, and Julia's screen with those neat $500 lines. Proof is a ladder. I needed rungs. Emma touched my sleeve. "Claire," she whispered, a question and a warning in one breath. I nodded and tucked my phone away. "I'm leaving now," I said to the room. "I will return with a locksmith and someone from the court if I have to. Nobody is to remove or destroy my documents or jewelry. That includes you, Barbara." She scoffed. "You can't tell me what to do in my son's house." I looked straight at Mark. "It's our house," I said, "until the papers say otherwise." On the porch, cold light found every nail in the railing. Julia followed me out for a step. "I didn't come to fight," she said. Her voice was careful, like a person carrying glass. "I came because I won't be hidden anymore." I met her eyes. There was a child in the stroller, a real little person with a pink hat and a thumb pressed to her mouth. I felt an ache that had its own weather. "Then don't be," I said. "But I won't be erased." Emma drove away slowly, as if the road might break under us. I stared at the city ahead, the gray stretch of Federal Boulevard, the white shoulders of the mountains, the Denver skyline like a row of quiet teeth. "Lawyer," I said, and Emma was already dialing. When Grace Miller answered, her voice held the calm of a clean desk. "Tell me what you have," she said. "A house in Denver, a husband named Mark, his mother, Barbara, a woman named Julia, $500 transfers, video, photos, and a ring I intend to keep," I said. "Good," Grace replied. "We'll make the next knock at that door ours." Emma made oatmeal while I made a plan. I sat at her small table in Denver, America, and wrote 3 columns in my notebook: money, movement, and mouths. Money meant bank transfers and receipts. Movement meant doorbell clips and hotel records. Mouths meant what people would say when a judge asked them to tell the truth. At the top of the page, I wrote my own name, Claire, and under it I wrote the house address, as if anchoring myself to the ground. I started with money. In my banking app, one searched Mark's name against outward payments. The list came up like a row of lit windows in the dark. There were the $500 transfers with notes that read for Lily, rent, and twice just a heart. There were cash withdrawals that matched the nights he swore he was in Boston. I exported the statements to a PDF and emailed them to myself and to Grace Miller, the lawyer. Then I opened our shared credit card. A boutique charge in pounds jumped out. £200 at a store that ships from Europe. I never received anything from that store. I clicked through to the receipt and saved the invoice. Next, I found a set of hotel bills here in Denver, not far from our house, dates overlapping with those $500 notes. I printed everything at the copy shop around the corner, paying $24.30 and slipping the warm pages into a plain black folder. Movement came next. I still had the doorbell camera app on my phone. I scrolled through winter nights and saw faces the way one sees them in dreams, grainy, tilted, both near and far. There was Julia, the red scarf bright as a stop sign, on evenings when Mark claimed he was helping a cousin in Chicago. There was Barbara telling someone, "She's not hosting? She'll learn." I downloaded the clips with timestamps and backed them up to a fresh drive I bought for $69. When the app asked if I wanted to favorite a clip, I pressed the star like a prayer and moved on. For mouths, I started with people I trusted. Emma wrote a short statement about the night I arrived, how I shook on her porch, and how she saw the bandage under my sweater. Her handwriting is neat. Judges like neat. Then I walked next door to our neighbor, Noah. He is quiet and mows his yard in straight lines. He had seen the stroller on Thursdays, he said, and a small car parked across the street with its lights off. He had photos he once took because the car blocked his driveway. He printed them and signed the back with the dates. I thanked him and promised to shovel his sidewalk when I was stronger. Back at Emma's, I called my doctor's office and asked for a letter about the surgery, what I had, what I needed, what lifting would do. They emailed a note on letterhead within the hour. I added it to the folder. Grace met me that afternoon in a small office with blinds that hummed when the heater kicked on. She wore a navy dress and spoke like she was reading a map only she could see. "We'll file today for a temporary order," she said. "Exclusive use of the house, freeze on joint accounts except a small living allowance, and a directive for no harassment. We'll request discovery on every transfer to Julia and ask for your medical costs to be covered this month." She tapped the folder. "This is strong." I told her about the pounds receipt and the hotel nights. "Good," she said. "It shows a pattern. We're building a straight line through fog." I left a retainer of $5,000 by card. The number made my chest tight, but power has a price, and I was done paying in silence. Grace handed me a checklist. "Tonight, sleep," she said. "Tomorrow, we knock with a court order." At home, my word still. Even if the house felt stolen, I pictured the locks. I booked a locksmith for the morning slot and wrote the appointment in my notebook. When Emma brought me tea, I read the list again. Money, movement, mouths. I had each one now, trimmed and dated, with my name at the top. Before bed, I stood by Emma's window and looked toward the dark line where the city meets the mountains. I pressed my hand to the glass. I did not ask for this fight, but I chose it now. Proof is a quiet thing. It doesn't shout. It knocks, it enters, and it sits down at the table. Tomorrow, it would sit beside me. Morning came thin and bright over Denver, America. Emma drove while I held the folder like a shield. Grace Miller met us with forms and a calm nod. "Judge Anthony Reed will hear us," she said. "Keep sentences short. Eyes forward." I touched the tender line under my sweater and breathed paper and coffee. Inside, Mark stood with a lawyer named Philip. Barbara sat behind them in her red coat. Julia came last, a red scarf at her throat, a child's mitten peeking from her bag. The clerk called our case. Grace spoke first, then it was my turn. I said my name is Claire, that my house stands on a quiet street in Denver, that I had surgery, that I was ordered to host Christmas, that when I refused I was pushed out of my own door. Grace cued the doorbell clips. Barbara's voice filled the room. "Stop being dramatic and cook." Then the video of Julia on my porch, stroller wheels shining in winter light. Mark stared at the floor. The judge watched without blinking. Grace handed up bank statements, the $500 transfers, hotel receipts here in the city, and the £200 boutique charge from Europe. She added Noah's photos, Emma's statement, and the doctor's note saying I needed rest and help. Philip tried to wrap the facts in ribbon. He spoke about tradition and miscommunication. He said, "I invited guests." He said I left voluntarily. The judge asked one question. Why is the wife paying $75 to escape her own kitchen? He waited. Mark swallowed and said nothing. Julia looked at the mitten and kept her hands folded. The order came down with clean edges. Exclusive use of the marital residence to Ms. Claire, effective today, Judge Reed said. Mr. Mark will vacate until further hearing. No entry by extended family without Ms. Claire's written consent. Temporary support to Ms. Claire in the amount of $2,000 for medical recovery this week. Preservation of all evidence. No harassment. His gavel sounded like a door shutting gently, but finally, something unknotted in my chest. Outside, wind carried the smell of snow and exhaust. I paid Grace another $500 toward costs. The locksmith met us at the curb in a van with a dented bumper. His name was Victor. His hands were quick and quiet. He changed the deadbolt and handed me 2 keys. I tipped him $60 and wrote the amount in my notebook. Emma set a pot on the stove, the rhythm returning to my kitchen. Mark arrived with Philip to collect clothes. I met them at the threshold with the order in my hand. 2 boxes, I said. No more. Barbara called once. I let it ring out. Julia did not come. When Mark left, the house exhaled. The heat clicked on. I walked room to room and touched what was mine. The lamp from a cheap weekend, the desk where I wrote money, movement, mouths, the quiet bed waiting like a kept promise. I sold the extra car for $8,400 and opened a new account in my name. I called the clinic and scheduled a follow-up. In the evening, I wrote to Grace about discovery, about tracing every dollar and every pound. I listed names, Emma, Noah, Grace, Victor, and what each had done, a ledger of kindness balancing what the week had taken. That night, I slept in my house. Snow fell soft. Before dawn, I woke and listened to the hush that means safety. I told the dark, I am back, and this home answers to my name. Tonight.